Okay, so we're recording. Okay, so thank you, Patty, for being here. This is our first actual meeting, our interview for awesome moms like us. We are parents of children who are autistic, and we are starting a series. I'm starting a series basically to just interview fellow moms like me to try to share, what our experiences have been, so we can try to help other people who are on the same journey as us. So we're going to ask Miss Patty, who is here. Thank you for being here, a couple questions. And yeah, so thank you for being here again. If you just want to introduce yourself and say a little bit about your child.
Okay, well, thank you for having me. I am Patty Harris. I'm a stay-at-home mom. My son is Connor. He's 10 and a half. He'll be 11 in November. He's autistic. He's what's known as more on like the severe side of it. He's I guess what we call pre-verbal. He talks, but he's not fully talking yet, and he can't always fully communicate how he's feeling. So like if he's upset and starts crying, I don't know what the problem is most of the time. He can't always tell me.
Yeah.
We do actually sometimes I'll try to use a communication device,
Mhm.
and sometimes he doesn't always still tell me everything he wants to tell me even with that. So I have to try to figure that out a little bit more too. But for the most part though, he does talk a lot more now than he used to, which is really good. And he repeats a lot more stuff, and he actually answers me more too when I ask him questions. So
Oh,
yeah.
that's such an, I mean, yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it is for my son too. So yeah, I totally get that. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So now I just want to ask you a couple questions just about, your journey as a parent, going through this when you first figured everything out. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience when your son was diagnosed? Like what age he was, how that, went for you guys?
Yeah, he was 3.5 years old. We had initially taken him over to, I don't remember what school it was now, over in Newport News, and I don't think they're around anymore. And we had him tested that way through the school, and they said that he did definitely exhibit signs of autism. They said we can't diagnose, of course, because we're a school. They said, but you need to take him somewhere. And I don't know if it was them or somebody else that recommended CHKD. So we went and saw Dr. Shagnon, who's a neurologist at CHKD, and she did, of course, all her testing and everything, and she said yes, he is definitely autistic. And she recommended that we start him on speech and OT, which we wound up just starting him on the speech initially because I don't want to put too much on him at first, and
Yeah.
then eventually we started the OT. But of course, I mean, I kind of had suspected something when he was like maybe 2, but I didn't know for sure if he was or not. I thought maybe it could have also just been little idiosyncrasies because we're all different.
Right.
And and I was actually thought that, well, if there was something wrong, maybe his doctor would have said something, or would have, caught on to that. And I didn't think about the fact, or even my mother-in-law, who used to be a nurse, surely she would have said something too. And
Right.
after his diagnosis, of course, we were both upset. We cried and we were like, oh my gosh, why us, why Connor, and all that other stuff too. But I think it was like for me, it was like the next day I said, we got this. I said, we got this. So whatever we need to do to get him where he needs to be, we're going to do it. And so that's when we kind of started the process of getting him signed up for at least for speech to start with. But and it didn't even dawn on me until my mother-in-law had said, I didn't pick up on it because this is not my area of expertise. We just assume that doctors are going to understand about this kind of stuff, but they
Yeah.
don't. That's why there's specific doctors like developmental pediatricians or certain neurologists that can pick up on this because that's not your average, everyday thing that a doctor would do. So that made
Yeah.
sense as to why they didn't, pick up on it. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's hard because you're a parent, you don't know all the things that you should know, and you rely on those people who do know more than you about these things, or you think they
Right.
do. And so yeah, it's
Right.
hard to know those things. But I love how you said once you first reacted, it hit you hard, and then you were the next day you were like, okay, let's do this. Let's figure out a plan. And I love that. I think that
Yeah.
that's what us moms do.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
that. We take care of our kids, whatever it is, whatever that bridge is, we're going to cross it together. And I just love that you
Right.
guys did that
Yeah.
instead of let it hit you harder, than it could
Yeah.
have and
Yeah.
stuff. So that's so
I mean,
cool.
And I mean, and of course, we still were still like, because of course, you worry about, his life is going to be harder now. How is this going to affect, us? And, it's hard for us too. But I mean, it was mostly worried about him and, how is this
Yeah.
going to react? And so you still, of course, even the first few days, you're still like that. Now, still, of course, you're still a little bit upset. But, initially, though, it was for me, I know at least it was like the one day, and I was like, we got, let's get it. Come on, we got to do what we
Yeah.
got to do. And so, yeah, so I wasn't playing. So,
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. It's like this little thing in your mind or your heart or whatever it is, and your mom, senses
yeah.
kick in and they do that. So yeah, that's super cool. Okay. How does your son by chance, does he have any brothers or sisters or anything?
No, he has a half brother, who from my husband's previous marriage, but he's an adult now.
Okay.
And so they didn't grow up together or anything like that. So no, for us, so he is an only child.
Oh, okay.
I would have loved to have had a second, but I had him kind of late in life anyway. And so
Yeah.
by the time we would have been able to have another one, it's like I was in my early 40s or whatever. I said, I don't know if I want to do that.
Yeah.
And you don't know because, especially because his sleep was off so much too. If you've got a newborn, now
Yeah.
that child's gonna be awake or vice versa, and it's like, so you
Yeah.
have all these factors going on, and it's like, do you
You
really
have
want and then
enough.
what
Yeah.
Yes, and what if the second child is autistic as well, which is fine, but then by the same token, now you have to worry about more therapies for them too, and there
Right.
to be different stages, and it's just but then if they're not, that's great too, and I often think, gosh, I kinda wish he had another sibling because, maybe they could if they especially if they're neurotypical sorry, I talk fast. If they're neurotypical, they could, he maybe play with them, maybe help them talk a little bit. He'd have somebody else to play, like I said, to play with
Right.
outside, inside, whatever. But then by the same token, Connor needs so much attention
Yeah.
that, I think maybe sometimes having a second one may have, taken away from that a little bit too. And I don't mind it. And he's very much a mama's boy. So he loves being with mama. And if I'd had a baby too, he'd have been like, you need to sit here with me. And he would try to snuggle up probably with the both of us and try to do all of that too. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think it would have been it just got to a point I think we kind of thought, you know what, let's just stick with Connor. And so we just kind of did that.
Yeah.
So
I totally understand that. Yep, I do. I do. It's a lot. So yeah, I think, do what fits your family best. And I think, yeah, it sounds like that was the best thing for you guys.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's great. Well, cool. Okay, so my next question is what state do you live in? Because there's so many people. I'm trying to learn more about what is available state-wise by state. So I live in North Carolina and there are some resources, but there are not a lot compared to other states. So can you tell us what is available from your state, like just from the state side, not like the doctor side, what you can get with your
Right,
insurance, but what is
right.
available from your state?
Well, I live in Virginia, and I know, and of course, we have a lot of people that have like the ABA, the speech, the OT, and of course, obviously, there's going to be waits for a lot of that stuff.
Yes,
But as far as and I know I've heard of people. I think if they can do like the SSI, type of thing.
yes,
There are certain things like that too that you have certain benefits. I think a lot of states have those too, but I know
they
in
do.
Virginia in particular of course, I think I think most states I think have the ABA, the speech, and the OT, but it depends on your state for the wait list. I've heard of some people have up to a year wait list,
Right.
which to me is insane. But with Virginia though, it's a little bit different, I guess, because we have a lot of military here.
Mhm.
So, I think in some cases, even if you're on a wait list, you think, okay, it might be 6 months, but all of a sudden 2 months later you get a call because everybody else has either found somebody else or they've moved because they're military. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it just really depends on the situation. And we also have this thing that because Connor, he went to, of course, special needs classes via our we are the neighborhood we live in has an elementary school in our subdivision. It's like a couple streets from us. One of the
Okay.
reasons why we bought this house. And it's like a 5-minute drive, which is awesome. And of course, he was in special needs classes there. Well, after, COVID happened and they shut the school down, unfortunately, our school division shut down for almost a year, which was
Mm.
insane. And everybody else had gone back within like a couple months. And I mean, we were like begging and pleading, please get them back in here.
Yeah,
And
it's
because doing it 'cause a lot of people don't understand that when you do online classes for special needs kids especially, that's not a good thing. They need the interaction, and Connor
right.
did not do well with that at all, period. I mean, he had behaviors he was exhibiting he had never exhibited before. And so
Wow.
finally, when he did finally get back to school, he did okay at first, but then when the next school year happened, he had these behaviors that were off the charts, and he
Yeah.
wasn't even going a full day. He was going like they said, "Well, let's do half days." He couldn't even make it the entire half day, and I had
Oh,
to go get him.
no. Yeah.
And so they finally, after a few months, were going to put in a behavioral thing in place. So that took 30 days for them to go over all of that. And then eventually his teacher said, well, wait a minute. She had thought about the fact that there's this thing called Center for Autism. It's literally an autism school. And what happens is because with Newport News Public Schools, you can they have like the speech therapy, but some school divisions will allow you to bring an ABA therapist into the school, into those classrooms. Unfortunately, Newport News is not one of them that does that.
Mm.
But this school is like a transitional school. So basically, if you're having issues with behaviors, you can go to that school and they'll get you going up to speed wherever you need to be, not just for behaviors, but for other things as well, of course. Once they think, you know what, your child is where they need to be, then they can go back to whatever school that they had started with. Well,
Oh,
Connor has
wow.
been there 2 years and he has done amazingly well. This
Wow.
school, because they can do the ABA stuff there too, where like if the child like, oh, because like Connor, if he's having a really good time with something, he doesn't want to leave. And so
Yeah.
even if
Yeah.
like, transitioning from like let's say gym class back to class, if they're doing something fun, he would drop down on the floor and be like, no, I don't want to go
Yeah.
back. I want to do that again. And so, you either try to lift him up, like you just take your arms underneath his armpits and you just say, nope, you gotta stand up. And he would stand up and go with you. Or what his teacher would do, which was very, very smart, she had a little tote bag of some of his favorite stuff. And she'd walk and turn around and say, hey, Connor, you want this? And he'd come get it and he'd follow her back to the classroom. So they
Oh,
can do that. Yes. And so when it came
smart.
to like, and of course a regular school, they can't do like the whole lifting up thing because of liability. They
Right.
can do that stuff there. They also have better ways of, yes, in the regular school that he was going to, they have a little sensory area, but it's still in the classroom. Sometimes that's a good thing, but then you think sometimes they need to be outside of that classroom if there's a lot going on. For Connor, if it gets too wild and crazy, people are yelling too much, that affects him. So he can
Yeah.
either go for a walk, they take him, they actually have sensory rooms that they can go that are quiet. There's like these a sensory swing that they have a big old ball
Wow.
that they can do. So whatever works for
It sounds like
him.
a dream school.
Yes, it is. It's an amazing, amazing place. And to me, I'm
Yeah.
like, that's how all autumn schools should be. Once you're they should have these
Yeah.
schools everywhere, all
They should
across the
have
United States.
that's what I was exactly thinking.
Yes. And not
We
have it
need them
as
everywhere.
transitional, have that be as your child will go here to get them at least started until
Yes.
they can get, especially with
Comfortable.
therapies. Yes, because you can't
Yeah.
always do the therapies anyway. And if you can do the speech and the OT and some of the ABA there, that gets these behaviors. As of his last IEP meeting, which was in March, they got rid of his behavioral thing completely. They did not need that.
Wow.
He has actually gotten to the point where he's hugging everybody, he's
Wow.
calling them by their names, he's sitting next to them just because he feels like it. I mean, he loves going to school, and he's been
Wow.
loving that. His first week that he was there, he got acclimated because they also let him be him, and that is so
Yeah.
important that a lot
That's
of these
so
teachers
important.
do not let them be him.
Yeah.
He had that when he was in kindergarten, but once he got back out of the school and was, like, in 1st grade and everything else too after that, and I think maybe even 2nd grade, whatever it was at the time, it's like kept trying to tell her because he likes to walk. That's his because he's a sensory kid and he's, pressure. He's,
Yes.
sensory seeker. So walking for him is like pressure on his feet. As long as he's not disturbing the class, let him walk, and sometimes
Yeah.
when he first got there, he would sit on the floor. They let him sit on the floor. And then eventually he would get to a point where he would sit in the chair, and then, okay, he'll sit over here in circle time with us when we're doing this activity. It may only
Mhm.
be for a short amount of time. That's fine. He'll work his way up to it. And they did. And like I said, so after the first week
Wow.
he was there, he was great. And then all of a sudden I'm getting this notice, within like a month, like he sat for the whole time, for the circle time, for the whole thing. And it's just been amazing. And it's just been a life changer, a game changer for us. And I think it was last Christmas of last year, I think it was, is when they did December, I should say, is when they did the whole AAC device. I didn't know they could do that there. And
Oh,
so, of course,
wow.
they just have an iPad and they put on the Prolo Quo to go. I can't even say it. And so they put that on there and they started with that with him because he used to have a static one that they used. And they said that was okay, but we need more in depth with him. And so they just trained him on how to use it. And he's been
Mhm.
using that every day ever since. And that's just kind of helped them out as well, too. And he is just blossoming. He really is. It's just been, like I said, just a blessing. And I, praise them all the time. I cannot thank you guys enough because it is
Yeah.
just great with having them there.
Yeah. I think so many of our kids could really benefit from a school like that. And I think,
Yes.
is that by curious, is that like a public school or is it a private
Yes.
school?
It's public school, because that
Wow.
was my thing too. Because I was like, "We can't afford private school," and it's actually because like, there's an elementary school in Newport News, and there was a New Horizons as part of that building, and so Center for Autism went in there, so it is considered public school, yes, and that's another thing that I think it needs to be part of the public school system, because most of us can't afford public school. We can't afford to change our minds now, let alone,
Yeah.
a private school kind of a thing, so, it's just one of
Yes.
those things that it has just been. And also too, when he got back from, after the shutdown, before COVID, he had a teacher and at least I think it was like maybe 2 or 3 teachers' assistants. And it's a small class. I mean, I think even there it was like 8 to 10 kids. Now I think it's like 6 or 8. I think it's like maybe 6 including Connor. And, but after the shutdown, it was just the teacher and one teacher's assistant, and that's it. So if the teacher's teaching and you've got the teacher's assistant over here testing somebody else, and then you've got a student that's acting up, now they have to stop what they're
Yeah.
doing. You know what I'm saying?
Now, yeah.
Whereas now, since he's been here, he's got a teacher plus 2 teacher's assistants. And I think there's a woman who's kind of like a floater who she does other like things as well. But sometimes, like if they need help with certain things, I think she can kind of come in and help with that as well too. And so they have all of the hands on deck that they need. And they
Yeah.
have the past couple of
That's,
years to help with that, which is
yeah.
awesome too. Yeah.
That's what we need. That's, my son has the same struggles as your son. Everything you said, I was like, oh, that's my son too. And
Yeah.
I've been trying to find a school like that for him, but they're all private schools, and they
Yeah.
are very
Yeah.
expensive, like we all
Yeah.
know. And so that's just so amazing that you guys have a public school that's like that in your
Yes.
city that's
Yes.
right there. Like,
Yes.
wow. So I wrote it down. It was Center for Autism, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna look
And
it
I'm
up
sure.
because I want to see what their, structure is, and maybe we can
Yes.
get something going. I don't know. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Let's do it everywhere. How can we get this everywhere?
Yes.
Because everyone complains about this, and no one has extra money for this. You're
No.
already paying for
Yeah.
therapy and all the things, and so it's just yeah. Oh, I'm like I want to move to Newport News
And I
because
and I
you know
know
what I mean.
I yes, and I was at the store one day and I had my, autism mom sweatshirt on, and the lady she and I were talking about it, and she said her child is autistic, and she said, her
Oh,
child goes to
cool.
Center for Autism, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, my child goes to Center for Autism
Oh
too."
my
And
gosh.
she said that they moved from Connecticut down to Virginia
Yeah.
because they didn't have anything like that up there, and I'm like,
I'm
"That
I'm
to me is
honestly
insane."
considering it. I'm like
Yes.
I'm like seriously considering it right now. Honestly, I've been to Newport News.
Yes.
I've been there. It's
Okay,
been
yeah.
many years.
Yeah.
I know that area a little bit, but not in a long time. So, yeah, I'm really considering it now. Honestly,
Yes.
just for that, I mean, it's
Yes.
just wow, that alone, just school wise, wow, that's some hope. And I think that's why I want to look it up because I want to see what are they doing? How did they do that? Like how can we get this everywhere? Because we really need
Yes.
that in all the schools. Like
Yes.
I don't know about your school system, but our school system in my district and every state is different. Every even county and school district is different everywhere, right? So even just one county over, they have a special ed class, but for like my county, we have a little bit of resources. Like my son's school really tries to help him. It's a public school, and they do what they can more than other public schools in our county do, honestly. But he's still in a general ed class. There's no class in the middle for him. It's either you're very severe or you're not severe enough, which is my son, and there's nothing in the middle. So he needs that middle, which is what your school is.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's my mission right now is to try to figure out how to get that balance, back into the system because
Right.
we need our kids need that so much. And to hear you say that your son likes to go to school is amazing because
Yes.
my son every day, is it a school day?
Yeah.
Want to go to school. Why do I have to go to school every single day, honestly? And so, to hear him do that is just amazing to
Yeah.
see his progress. So that's
Yes.
so cool. You're very lucky.
Yeah, and there have been times where, like, even if it's, like, spring break, it kinda throws him off a little bit too, and sometimes he'd be like,
Of
"School?" I
course.
said, "No, baby, you don't have school today." I said, "It's spring break."
Yeah.
I said, "Everybody's off. Nobody's going today, buddy. It's not just you."
It's a break.
Everybody, so
It's
yeah,
so
so
hard to, yeah.
yeah,
That's always a
yeah,
hard one for us too. Summers, just winter
Yes.
break, spring break. Yeah, it's so how has
Yeah.
that experience been for you? Has it been kind of, challenging too when those breaks happen or
Oh,
um
yeah. I mean, especially, like I said, summer can be a little bit too at times, but, he does do the extended school year there as well,
oh
and
good,
so
yeah.
they usually do it's only, like, about 3 weeks, but it keeps him busy, and it keeps that
Yeah.
going too a little bit, and so we try to keep that
Keeps
going
them,
as much as we can, and it's summertime, so he kinda pretty much knows, "Okay, hey, it's summer, so we don't really have
yeah,
school," so it's not as bad as, like, spring break because all of a sudden he's like, "Why am I off?" For a week, and
yeah,
he's like, "School, school," and I'm like, "Okay, babe." But now sometimes in the summer, he can still after a while, he gets a little antsy, and I'm like, "Okay, we gotta do something because he's
yeah.
don't worry about it, you'll go back to school soon, it's okay." And then when he does, he's happy to be back, of course, because 'cause he's got that routine again. But of
Right,
course, we
right.
always just try to keep him busy, just try to keep him, whatever and stuff like that. But it's really like or even sometimes the winter break isn't it's okay because I guess because it's Christmassy, it's a little bit different, I guess. But spring break though, especially
Not
like I said
different.
that week, he's like, "Yeah, what am I doing? Like, why are we off?" It's like, "What's going on?" So
Why is
that's
this? Yeah. It's the same as
yeah,
I feel.
so
I'm like, why are we off,
yeah,
You're messing up my
yes,
whole thing.
yeah,
My whole family's messed up now. I know, we all feel it. So yeah, they're not alone. Wow. Okay, cool. Okay, I guess we kind of went through the other questions just on talking, so that was
yeah.
great. But just want to touch on how your son eats. Is he a picky eater? Did he eat a lot of things before and stop eating things? Does he how are his eating habits? Because a lot of us have, you know, struggle with that.
That's a huge struggle for us too. Yeah, he's very much a very eater. He used to have certain foods that he would eat all the time, and then all of a sudden he stops eating them. And right now, his main thing that he's loves is chicken fries.
Oh,
But
from
so I
Burger
tried it. I'm
King?
like, so you can get those from the store. The chicken fries, from like Burger King.
Yeah, Burger King. Yeah,
Yeah,
my
and
son just
he loves
started
this.
eating those. I
Yeah,
don't know why. He must have saw a
yeah.
video or something. That is so funny.
Yeah, but he loves those, that's, like, his thing. Now, he might eat nuggets from other places, but for the most part, that's what he wants, and
Right.
so I tried to
Yeah.
buy the ones from the store, put them in the air
No.
fryer, whatever. Nope, he didn't want them. I even tried to sneak and put, like, I kept a couple of those boxes from the
Oh
chicken
my
fries
God.
and put the ones I made in there.
The
He
things
knew,
we
he
do.
knew, he's like, "These
No,
are
they
not the
know.
same,
They
mama."
know. They're too
They
smart. Yeah.
do. They do. I don't know if it's because he knew, like, "Mama, I didn't hear the door, but I heard the machine going," He knew. He knew it wasn't it, and I was like, "Dang it, I can't
Dang.
even do that." So, unfortunately, right now, that's kinda what he's into, but, sometimes waking him and I'm like, "Yes, this is great," and all of a sudden, he's like, "Nope, don't want that again." I'm like
Yeah.
but he compartmentalizes, so when he's at Grammy's, he's gonna eat certain things there, but when he's at home, he doesn't really eat them there because he's at home, if that makes any
Right.
sense, and, like, at school, he's tried some new stuff at school, I'm like, "That's great," but
Yeah.
if I and I haven't tried to see if he'll eat it at home yet, but I have a feeling if I did, he'd be like, "No, that's school. I don't eat that. Do I eat
Yeah.
that at school?" You know?
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things that, so that happens a lot of times too. It's very, very hard to get him to eat anything new.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that some people say, "Oh, well, there's like the feeding therapy," but some people can take up to 2 years. I'm like, I don't have that kind of time.
Yeah.
And so I've thought about maybe going to like a functional medicine doctor and getting him tested for like toxins and stuff. Because a lot of times we all have that. Our environment is just full of stuff. And so, especially kids on the spectrum, and finding out what they can do. Because a lot of times when they detoxify a little bit, that actually helps them, and they're more open to trying new things as well too.
Really?
And but
Hmm.
unfortunately, the functional medicine doctor, though, being the fact that they're homeopathic, they're not covered under insurance, so that's gonna be an
Right.
out-of-pocket expense. I don't think I'm gonna be able to afford it yet, but I think if I can sit down and maybe do like a a virtual thing with her and find out how much is that gonna be, that way maybe we can try to save up for it or whatever and look into
Yeah.
that. But that's something I was thinking about at some point in time too. But, yeah, right now we're kinda stuck with the chicken fries, unfortunately, is his main thing. He does kinda like some yogurts and stuff, but he is dairy intolerant, so I have to be careful with that. But, for the most part, though, it's mostly the chicken fry thing or, of course, the Chick-fil-A nuggets. I mean, who doesn't like those? And ever on occasion, maybe the Wendy's nuggets for some reason too. But, yeah, it's just unfortunate, but he used to love, like, little mini pancakes and, like, the little, when he was a little kid, I got to eat him, like, a little bit of apple every once in a while or something, but for the most part, he's kinda stuck in certain things right now, unfortunately, so, yeah.
Yeah. Yep, totally understand. Yep, that's what we do too. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little bit of, of all, yeah, I think they get stuck on their things. Like for my son, he will be, for example, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for lunch. I made them half the school year, this past school year, and all of a sudden, no, I don't want peanut butter and jelly anymore. And I'm like, oh crap, what am I gonna feed you now for lunch? And what am I gonna put in your lunchbox? And I just, so now he eats these specific granola bars that are a certain flavor and certain brand, and um that's what he has, and it just it's just hard. So yeah, my son's the same way. It's just, it depends what he wants, and he eats that for a little while and then he will stop too. So it's just so funny how they are. But yeah.
And
um
I know and, like, when he got back, to school after the shutdown, he had always eaten lunch at school there. Like, they would have nuggets there, and he would eat those, but yet he would eat the ones when I brought him from home. Don't ask me why,
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
yeah, that's
so
so
he would
funny. I
eat those things.
know.
And so I never packed his lunch for, like, the first 2 weeks he came home, and it was like he was really hungry. I didn't realize literally until 2 weeks after he went back, "Oh, they changed it. We have a different vendor now, so they don't have those nuggets anymore.
Oh,
It's just random every day is something different." So I was
yeah.
really mad that his teacher didn't tell
uh,
me for the first 2 weeks that he wasn't eating lunch. So now I was trying to scramble, trying to find something else
oh,
for him to eat, and eventually I hit on something for him to eat. But I
yeah,
was like, "Okay." At least here, though, like I said, they even though, yes, they still have that variety,
yeah,
he'll look it over and be like, see if anything, piques his interest. If it does, he'll try it. If not, he'll eat what I pack. So it really just depends on what he wants to do. But yeah, but that was frustrating too. Like I said, why change that up when most of these kids, especially the autistic kids, want the chicken nuggets, and if they're going to eat it,
yeah,
let him eat it.
yeah,
So to change
yeah.
that to me, it just made no sense. I'm like, why would you do
Why
that?
would they do that? Yeah, they don't, it's hard for them to understand. So, the difference for our kids. So, well, thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here and everything you shared. What would
Yes.
you like to share with a family, who just started out on this journey? Just our last question, real quick.
Just to, just keep advocating for your child. I know it's
Yeah,
frustrating, just keep doing what you gotta do, and I know, being on those wait lists can be tough. Sometimes they have stuff online, and like I said, my child does better in person than he does online. Your
yeah,
child might be different. Just like I said, if they're having behavioral issues, make sure in the IEP say, "Hey, can we do what's called a BIP?" It's a behavioral plan. Can we look to see if there's, a school like Center for Autism? And just
yeah,
be patient with your child as much as you can. It's hard because I know we get frustrated too, and just be patient with them and just try to figure out what's going on with this. Get with the therapist, find out what's this going on. And if you're doing therapy with your child, please do it with them at home. There's so many parents that
yeah,
just let the child go do the therapy and don't practice it at home, and the child can't get to where they need to be too. And that is so important. And
yeah.
make sure you
That's a
have
good
that
point.
support system. Having a support system is important. So even if it's just a group on Facebook, something that where you can relate to that, to where because a lot of people cannot relate to what you're going through.
Yeah,
Get on the Facebook and do all of that as well. Get the advocates, get the doctors, get whatever. And if you think that there's another issue, find somebody else if you have to. I mean, and I know it's hard to do, but you do what you got to do. Ask questions as much as you can, even from other parents. And
yep,
it's just, you just got to do what you can for your child. And it's a hard journey, but it's amazing. And it can get better. Like I said, I mean, Connor's behaviors have improved tremendously. I mean, yes, he still has his moments, but for the most part, it's gotten a lot better. His sleep sometimes can still be off, but that's improving too. And it's just, we have to, like I said, we just have to be there for our kids. And it's so important.
yeah,
And like I said, fight for that. And like I said, look for the different schools, look for the doctors. Like I said, look for the therapists, look for the things because there are things like SSI, which that's another thing that irritates me. They go by
our
your
income.
yearly salary.
Yeah,
Well, to me, if you make too much money, so you don't qualify. I'm sorry. It doesn't matter how much I make. Have you seen the economy and stuff? And even if it was fine, you still have insurance. You have health insurance. You have all this other stuff you have to pay
yeah,
for.
so much.
Taxes. By the time they take those out, it's like half what you're making. And so, look into those types of things that can maybe help you out to pay for certain therapies or pay for whatever that you might need for your child. Those, of course, are not always perfect either, but at least it's something to kinda help you
Yeah,
out for that as well, but
keep
definitely to get a
going.
support
Yeah,
because a
keep
lot of us don't
lifting.
have a lot of support. Yes, and a
Yeah,
lot of us don't have a lot of support from family or whatever, or spouses or whatever the case may be, so
yeah.
we need to have that as much as we can, know that we feel like we're not, that we're failing our child, but we're doing the best that we can, and our child loves us tremendously no matter what, and that they know that we're doing the best that we can too. So,
Oh man,
yes.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for doing this.
Thank you.
I think you shared
Oh,
so
yes,
many great
absolutely.
things for everybody to learn from, and I think, I think you're doing a great job too. You're kicking butt over there. Like I'm so jealous of your school, and I am, and I'm so proud of your son for all his improvements and growth. And I can't wait to hear more about what he does, because it sounds like he's just right on the right path. And that was from you. You did that. You got him there, and
Thank you.
he's so lucky to be your baby.
And we are truly blessed. And real quick before, I want to say that there are a lot of people throughout our history that were on the spectrum, like
Yes,
Albert
so
Einstein,
many
Isaac
undiagnosed.
Newton, Thomas Edison, so many of them. Emily Dickinson. So, if they can do it, our kids can do it too. And
Yes,
look up Cody Lee. He was on America's Got Talent a couple years ago. He's
yeah,
blind and autistic, and he rocked it. So anybody
yeah.
that has a child that's like that, your child can do anything. So just don't even
Yeah,
think. So
it's
yeah. So
definitely
just
not
remember
a
that.
disability. It's a different abilities. I love that phrase because
Yes,
it's so
I
true.
do too.
It
Yes,
really is so true. So,
yes,
yeah. Well, thank you
yes.
so much again for being here. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, you too.
Thank you.